Hello everyone, I Kuldeep Sharma welcome you all to today's session of Hindu News Analysis, where we are going to do most important topics or most important news headlines from the Hindu newspaper as well as the Indian Express. So let's start with the first news. So the first news is regarding one of the research which has been done by this newspaper only, wherein it has been reported that there were at least 20 companies or 20 new companies which had bought poll bonds or electoral bonds. So as you may know that the Supreme Court has recently declared electoral bonds or poll bonds as unconstitutional, as against the constitution. So now the political parties cannot take donation with the help of electoral bonds. And this has been reported that although even the loss making companies could take a electoral bond or donate through an electoral bond, however there was still one condition which was not changed, which was the requirement of 3-year existence of that, the 3 years from the date of incorporation, after which only a company can donate to a political party. So now let's look at what political contribution is. So as you may know that any individual or a company, any individual like you and I, or any company, it can be a Indian company as well as a foreign company, they can actually donate to political parties. However, there are always certain conditions which a company or an individual has to follow. So for the purposes of the conditions were laid down in the Companies Act 2030. So this is the main act. Earlier it was amended in 2013. The original act was of 1956. So Companies Act 2013 regulates the companies as well as it provided for political donations. So one of the section of it, section 182, what it stated was that one of the condition before which a company cannot make a donation is that the company should be at least 3-year-old. What do you mean by 3-year-old? That on the day from the date of incorporation, there must at least be 3 financial years. 3 years should have passed by before it can donate to a political party. And there was another second condition. The second condition was that the maximum donation which a company can do to a political party was capped at 7.5% of last 3-year profit. Okay, so the maximum which a company could donate was 7.5% of the last 3-year profit. However, this second condition, this second requirement was amended in the year 2017 and it was totally removed. Okay, which means now a company could donate any amount, and this is the case right now also. A company could donate any amount. However, we have limit not just a 7.5% cap on the profits. We have also removed the requirement that there should be any profit, which means even a loss-making entity or a loss-making company can also donate to a political party. And now you can realize, why would a loss-making company, a company which is already in a loss, why would it donate to anyone? Do you donate to a person if you yourself are poor? You are asking for donation there. You are asking for money. However, even a loss-making entity would be able to donate now. And it is believed and it is alleged by many activists that this one has been done so that black money could be converted into white. So people who are earning black money or who have not declared their income properly, those companies can do it through this mode. And the other thing is, the loss-making companies have a personal interest also, because if a company is loss-making, provided, then it is only the government, probably it is the government which can help it to come out of the loss-making. So many companies who are loss-making try to get certain privileges or advantages from the government in exchange for these kind of donation which they make. So these were the two conditions. So again, I'll summarize it. The two conditions are as per Companies Act. The two conditions are, first is 3 years of existence, and second condition was, earlier was 7.5% of profit, which has now been removed, which means now there is no limit. So as of now, only this one is left. And what this news is telling us is this only, that there were at least 20 companies. There were at least 20 companies which actually donated through electoral bonds. Through electoral bonds, and their life existence was less than 3 years. Okay, so this news has come up on the first page and it has been covered in detail. It has been covered in detail with the help of data points on the open page, or in on the page 7th or 8th where the editorial page comes up. There the companies' names have been given. These names are not important for you where this money has come, but what you should understand from these news headlines is what is the law which has been breached, or what is the law which regulates such kind of things. Okay, so this was the first news headline. Now let's move to the next news headline. So next news, important news has come up from the Indian Express. So there has been a new health related report by WHO. It is known as Global Hepatitis Report. And what it has reported is that India stands at second place. India stands at second place when it's come to cases of hepatitis. So cases are also very high, as well as mortality due to hepatitis is also very high in India. So you can see that if India is second, which is the first country? So the first country is actually China. Okay, and there is a division also. For example, two main viruses, two main types of hepatitis which impacts large population are hepatitis B and C. Okay, and in particular in total also India is at second, China is first, and otherwise also in hepatitis B, first is China and second is India. And hepatitis B is actually the most common kind of hepatitis. And among hepatitis C, first is actually Pakistan and second again is India. So what is hepatitis? Hepatitis is actually a virus that affects your liver. It causes inflammation of liver. What is inflammation? Inflammation means that it has enlarged, or जिसको अपन हिंदी में सूजन बोलते हैं, it has become enlarged. And if hepatitis is not treated properly, it changes into liver cirrhosis. Please check the spelling, I might be wrong. It can lead to liver cirrhosis or liver damage, permanent liver damage, or cancer also, liver cancer. Okay, so liver is one part of the body which has the capacity to self-heal. And once it loses that capacity to self-heal, it is cirrhosis. So hepatitis, some facts, small facts about hepatitis. That hepatitis virus is of 5 types: A, B, C, D and E. It is easily preventable. All types are preventable. But hepatitis B cannot be prevented. Can be prevented, sorry. Because it is the only hepatitis virus which has a vaccine. There is no vaccine for hepatitis C. Okay, there is a vaccine for hepatitis B and it is also part of Universal Immunization Program of India. What is Universal Immunization Program? Like we have compulsory vaccines for polio. Similarly, we have compulsory vaccines for hepatitis B for children. So there is a vaccine for hepatitis B. There is no vaccine for hepatitis C. However, A, B, C and D, E also or R can be cured. There is a cure for it. Provided you get timely treatment before this inflammation turns into cirrhosis or permanent liver damage, then there is no solution for you. Okay, and let's look at the magnitude of problem which we have. The main problem is that globally around 1.3 million people, around 13 lakh people die because of hepatitis. They die because of hepatitis in all over the world. And a large proportion of it is actually in China and India. And the main reason is that they are not able to get proper treatment at the right time. The other big problem with hepatitis in India is that there is a very low diagnosis rate. डायग्नोसिस बेसिकली मींस कि आपको पता ही नहीं पड़ता कि आपके हेपेटाइटिस है या आपके फैमिली में किसी के हेपेटाइटिस, तो एक्चुअल में डायग्नोसिस ही नहीं होता, तो ट्रीटमेंट टाइम पे स्टार्ट ही नहीं होता, और जब टाइम पे स्टार्ट नहीं होता है तो बहुत बार बहुत लेट हो जाती है, एंड फाइनली इट कन्वर्ट्स इनटू सिरोसिस और अ परमानेंट लिवर डैमेज. So this was the second news which has come up in the Indian Express newspaper. Now let's look at some of the editorials which has come up in the Hindu newspaper. Like this editorial is titled Gross Mismanagement, and it's also health related to TB. TB, which stands for tuberculosis, is caused by a bacteria, and India has the highest number of cases and the highest mortality. And this article is actually arguing that this mortality rate is actually because of gross mismanagement in India. So it is not like that the government is not doing anything to eliminate tuberculosis. For example, Narendra Modi in 2018 had actually declared that the TB elimination target is 2025. So we are going to eliminate tuberculosis by 2025. However, again, when you will read this article, you will find out that we are very far from eliminating it in 2025, let alone in 2028. But it is not like that we cannot do it. Even if we start doing our things which are to be done, then we would be able to maybe a year later or 2 years later, but we might be able to eliminate TB. And at the same time, the WHO TB elimination target is year of 2030. Now, one problem with TB in India in particular is that the TB virus has evolved. Like the COVID virus, it has also the capacity to evolve. All the viruses and bacteria can evolve. So what happens is that once a TB virus, a kind of a TB virus evolves, the first line of treatment stop working. So whatever, let's say if a person is getting a TB and if he's given certain kind of drugs, then that TB can be cured. However, if the TB bacteria has evolved, then this kind of medicines wouldn't work. Then you would be requiring the second line of treatment. And the TB which has evolved into a virulent form, it is known as MDR TB. And the story does not stop here, because you must have, the related topic here is antimicrobial resistance. So if you have time, search for this. Otherwise, I will take it in some other session also. AMR, antimicrobial resistance. What is this? Basically, the microbes, your bacteria, virus, are becoming resistant to the medicines. Okay, because of which you need higher level of antibiotics and other medicines. So in this case also, MDR TB, which is the second virulent virus, the higher form of virus, has evolved and converted into XDR TB. And now you require a third line of treatment. And the bad news is, if it evolves further, we do not have a fourth line of treatment. And we are already facing such kind of cases in India also. And remember, there is a treatment, but these are very heavy doses. These are very, very heavy doses. The dosage of all the medicines keep increasing in every line of treatment, which leads to many side effects. So it might be possible that the TB is cured, but the side effects would actually reduce the lifespan or life expectancy of such a person. So that's why we also need to work on our antimicrobial resistance. How? We should not take over the top. Over the top. What is over the top? Basically, you should not go to a medical shop and ask for your medicine without prescription. You should go to a doctor and then only take medicines. Because if you take unnecessary medicines, or if you do not complete the course of medicine, the virus bacteria in your body or the virus bacteria which has come outside gets evolved. It becomes resistant to those vaccines and medicines also. So that's why it is very important that you only take medicines after prescriptions. Okay, so this is your what has been reported in this. Okay, now let's look at the second one. So again, our editorial has come up with a recent Supreme Court judgment, and this judgment is very important for you, which is that the Supreme Court has declared right against adverse effect of climate change as your fundamental right, as a distinct right. So what the court has done here is, the court has declared that right against adverse effect of climate change is a distinct fundamental right, and actually which the court has already declared that right to clean environment, and sustainable development is already your fundamental right under Article 21. In the last class, I discussed in detail about Article 21, which talks about right to life. So again, because the court has already declared the right to clean environment and sustainable development is a fundamental right, the court here declared the right against adverse effect of climate change and right to clean environment and sustainable development are two sides of the same coin. So again, a phrase for your English also. So see, you can see when you read editorials and you read articles, you improve your English also. Okay, are two sides of the same coin. And now the court here says that when climate change adverse effect impact a family, what are the adverse effects of climate change? For example, there are floods, there are droughts, there are storms. And when we have these extreme events, usually what happens is there is either food shortage. There would be food shortages because of drought, lack of water, lack of clean water actually. If there are storms, housing is impacted, etc. And as you may know, you might be having certain savings. You might be having a second home, or you might be having a pakka home at a height. However, it is actually the poor person. It is the poor person who gets impacted the most. And because it is a poor person who is impacted and not the rich person, there is a breach of Article 14 also, which talks about right to equality. And because the state is not doing enough, so what happens is, if it is declared a fundamental right, then every individual in India has the right to go to the Supreme Court or High Court and say that the state should take efforts to protect me from adverse effects of climate change. And if the state is not doing so, it is leading to floods, droughts, storms, etc., which is leading to food shortages, which is leading to breakdown of my houses, which is actually impacting the poor. So I can connect that my quality of life is being affected by adverse effect of climate change, which is my fundamental right and which is to be protected by the state. So because of this, my right to equality is also, right to equality of a poor person is more impacted. So this is what this article is about. In the second paragraph, if you will read this part of this article, you will find out the context of this case. Actually, this case was actually not directly related to climate change. This case was actually related to conservation of great Indian bustard. So it's one of the heaviest birds of the world, great Indian bustards. It is also a state bird of Rajasthan and is also found in Gujarat. It is found in dry grasslands. And one of the reason for their endangerment is because of high voltage lanes. So you must have seen that in the empty areas there are high towers of this shape and very high powered transmission lines flow from it. This bird cannot fly very fast, and it is a very heavy bird. So what happens? It collides with these high voltage lines and die because of this. So what the Supreme Court had told the ministries were that all the high voltage lanes in the regions where these great Indian bastards are found, or in the conservation region where they can go, all of those low voltage lines, all the low voltage lines should be put underground. And wherever possible, high voltage lane should also be placed underground. So this order was given in 2021. So what happened was Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Power, and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy all went to the Supreme Court and said that there are many practical problems. There are many practical problems in implementing it. For example, the cost of undergrounding the wire is very high. It becomes prohibitive. It becomes prohibitive of the business, that the business cannot continue, or the business would not be profitable if we take out this cost. So they pointed out this, and also said that renewable energy targets cannot be met if we start putting these cables underground. So because of this, the Supreme Court actually modified its order, and it said wherever possible, at least do at least the undergrounding of low voltage lines. And it can be the government which can do this part rather than the private sector, or compensate the private sector for it, and otherwise submit a report. And submit a report का मतलब होता है this has gone into a cold storage now. Whenever the Supreme Court is going to ask for a report, submit a report to the government is going to take at least 2 to 3 years, and then there would be 1 and 2 hearings, and finally some solution might come, but it would already be very late by then. Okay, so this is what the article is about. Let's look at the next one. So candidates have a right to privacy from voters, rules Supreme Court. So before you read this, let me give you a context of this. So you may know that a candidate who wants to fight an election has to declare his assets, his wife or spouse assets, husband or wife assets, and his dependents assets. Whoever is dependent on that person, their assets. For example, his son or daughters and their parents also. So all of these assets, they are to be declared. Apart from it, he also needs to declare his education qualification. And also if there is any criminal record. And this is done because the Supreme Court has declared in a case that the voters have a right to know under Article 19. That the voters have a right to know, and to exercise their vote, to exercise their vote properly, these are the kind of details, these are the kind of information which a voter should have. So a candidate should declare all the 3 information. Apart from it, there is a particular section in your Representation of People's Act. So there is a particular section known as section 123 which talks about corrupt practices. What are the corrupt practices? So if a candidate is involved in corrupt practices, his candidature gets cancelled. Even if he has won that election, then his seat becomes vacant also. So what are the corrupt practices? For example, bribery. If someone is involved in bribery, then he is disqualified. Next is undue influence. You are putting undue influence on the voter. For example, you are emotionally violating or influencing that voter by asking votes in the name of religion. Next would be false information. false information. For example, in your nomination paper, you have given certain false information. Like you had a criminal case of which had a punishment of more than 2 years, but you did not recorded it. So that would be giving a false information. And finally, if you try to cause violence on basis of religion, race, caste, community or language. Religion, race, caste, community, language. So if you are involved in any of these activities, it is considered a corrupt practices. So if you will look at this point, false information. So a candidate is supposed to give all the information truly. Okay. So this has been the norm till now. Now what the Supreme Court has said here, that candidates have to declare all the information, but they also have a right to privacy from voters. Which means that if they have the right to privacy, they do not have to declare each and everything, all of their movable and immovable assets. They do not have to tell me how many scooters they have, if they have just 1 or 2. And if they have forgotten to mention it, it won't be considered as false information and would lead to disqualification of that particular MP MLA. What you should be providing, or the candidate should provide what? A candidate should provide him with information which is necessary for voter to know. Which is necessary for voter to know. For example, in this case itself, the Supreme Court has given an example that if a person is having, or if a candidate is having a collection of luxurious watches, if a collection of luxurious watches is with a candidate, then that should be declared. Because then the voter should know from where did he got these luxurious watches. However, if you have some old bikes, scooters and cars, those are not to be disclosed because they do not have any apparent value, or these are not the kind of asset which would change the mind of a voter, because they also understand, they are also smart enough to know that these are old assets and do not have any values. So if a candidate has even forgotten to declare such kind of assets, then it is totally fine. So this is one learning which has come up with the new judgment of the Supreme Court. Moving to the next one. So border march called off, lay authorities roll back restrictions. So what had happened was that in the UT of Ladakh, Union Territory of Ladakh, there were protests going on for the last 2-3 months, and it was being led by Sonam Wangchuk. We have covered it again and again, so I am going to do it in very short. Okay, so it was being led by Sonam Wangchuk, who was actually on a 21 days hunger strike also. What next he had planned was that he said that I am going to take you people through video and I'm going to take people of Ladakh with me, and I'm going to go to those border places where China has actually incursed, and has occupied. So this is what he had stated. When he said so, the government actually imposed restrictions, movement of restrictions. So that's why, because the government, he said that since the government is overreacting, I am calling it off, because it is now not going to serve any purpose, and I don't want to involve my people into any fight with the central government or anyone. Okay, now let's look at what are the main 2 demands of Sonam Wangchuk or the people of Ladakh. One demand is to restore statehood of Ladakh. Restore statehood of Ladakh, but not make it part of Jammu and Kashmir, a separate state of Ladakh. And the second ask is enter Ladakh into the 6th schedule. 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. And what is 6th schedule? So only as of now, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram, only 4 state regions are made part of 6th schedule. And what benefit these regions get? who get incorporated in 6th schedule, they get more autonomy. So they have more control over the rules, over the execution of those rules and laws into their territory. That's why he wants that Leh Ladakh should also be put up in 6th schedule. So this was a small overview of the issue. Moving on. So next is another good news, I'll say. So India is likely to record normal monsoon this year. So as you may know, monsoon is the main rainy season. Because of which Indian subcontinent get majority of rain. The literal meaning of monsoon is actually reversal of winds. Yes, seasonal reversal of winds. So what happens is that in the month of July, there is this equator, the winds which are coming from here, they move like this. And in the January months, not the January, October, November months, these winds reverse and move in this direction. And monsoon is an Arabic term, and the Arabic sailors as well as the Westerners later on started using it, and they used to use it to move their ship, because earlier there were no power engines, so they had to wait for the wind to come up. So they used to plan their journey according to the wind's movement. So that's why the term monsoon. So that is the history. So what is a normal monsoon? So your organization, your IMD, International Meteorological Department, which deals with all the meteorological phenomena related to weather and climate, declares normal monsoon when the change from normal is between 96% to 104% of long period average. And your long period average is also given as 868.6 mm. So this is given in the handout also, this information. So long period average basically in a particular year, what is the average rainfall? So if the rainfall is in this ballpark, if this is 100%, if the rainfall is between this ballpark, it is believed that it would be a normal monsoon. That the error, that the change in from the normal monsoon is not more than 5%. Not more than 5%. So that is a normal monsoon. Okay, so the SkyMet, which is a private forecasting body, has reported that this year it is going to be 102% with an error margin of plus 5%. Okay, plus minus 5%, which means it is going to be a normal monsoon as per at least SkyMet, which is a private body. IMD as of now has not declared whether we are going to have a normal monsoon or a deficient. Next one. So from the text and context page, which is like the explained portion of the Indian Express newspaper, there is an article regarding the import restrictions which have been put up on solar PV cells. So as you may know, India is trying to promote renewable energy, and to be particular solar energy. We already have our national solar mission where we have decided that we are going to generate 100 gigawatt of solar energy by the year 2026. Then what is this import restrictions? So as of now, India is totally, by totally I meant around 80 to 90% of our solar energy cells requirement comes up from China and Vietnam. And let's look at the share of China. So when it comes about solar cell, around 53% of solar cells are imported alone from China. And when we import the whole of PV modules, photovoltaic modules, it is around 63% more. So more than half of all the solar capacity for India is coming from China and rest from other countries, because India has very low domestic production. But why now import restrictions are being put up? So what the government has done is that it actually had made a list, ALMM, approved list of models and manufacturer of solar photovoltaic modules, ALMM list. What is this list? It's a list of manufacturers who are eligible to contract or to participate with government in government schemes, etc. projects. Okay, so that list was not notified for the last 2 years. Last year, the list was already made, but it wasn't notified. Now the government has decided that now we are going to notify it, and only manufacturers who are in this list, and that only contains as of now only domestic manufacturers. Only those who are in this list will get a chance to participate with the government in their government programs. And why it is done so? Because 2 years ago, India's domestic capacity was not that much that it can fulfill India's requirement. And at the same times, at that time, there were already contracts entered by people who were involved in solar panel industry with Chinese companies for import of those. So they also had no option but to continue with that agreement. However, in the meanwhile, in the last 2 years, India has been promoting PLI, Production Linked Incentive Scheme. And what is this scheme? As the name suggests, production linked incentive. So if a company increases its production, then the government gives more subsidy to it. It gives more subsidy and also put up less taxes on that body. So a domestic manufacturer is promoted to produce more of those solar panels or etc., whichever manufacturing industry is involved. So because of this, now the government wants that it is time that we now notify this ALMM list so that domestic manufacturing gets a boost up. And what is the potential of India? So India has already committed that it is going to produce at least 500 gigawatt of power or electricity from non-fossil fuels. Non-fossil fuels by 2030. By 2030, and as of now, India only achieves around 102 gigawatts with the help of renewable energy. This data is not important because it keeps changing. However, you should know this target of India. 500 gigawatt of power to be produced from non-fossil fuels, from renewable sources of energy by the year 2030. So this is one goal, which means there is enough scope for domestic solar manufacturers to tap the market and attain profit. And this will also help India to attain the goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat, that we are trying to promote domestic manufacturing. Okay. Now let's look at the next news. So these are kind of one-liners only. So I have only added it in the Hindu news analysis so that you do not miss out on these kind of news. So some person, Simon Harris, has become Ireland's youngest prime minister. So it's only a one-liner, but you should not miss out on such kind of news. And also we are going to discuss the 20 GK question after this. And in that, I've also framed a question on it. Okay, all the questions from 20 GK questions are relevant questions which can come up in your CLAT exams as well as your other law exams. Next news, another one-liner only, who has become the oldest #1 tennis player? So answer would be Djokovic in men's. So now let's start with the 20 GK questions for today. I know there might be certain technical error you must be facing because of the sound, but please bear with me for today. Tomorrow we are going to make sure that there is no technical error. So let's look at the question which have been framed from today's newspapers only. So first is the one, according to the Companies Act 2013, how many years after its incorporation can a firm make political contributions? So is it immediately after 1 year, after 2, or after 3? So we actually did it as the first news in today's Hindu news analysis, and the answer is after 3 years. So the answer is D. Next question. So what is the target year set by India to eliminate TB through the Pradhan Mantri TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan? We also covered it in today's Hindu news analysis, and the answer for India is actually A, 2025. Next question, the Indian government target of 500 gigawatt of installed capacity from non-fossil fuels is to be achieved by what year? We have also done this also. It's the year of 2030. So answer here would be B. Next question. Which of the following country accounts for more than 50% of India's solar cell imports and 60% of solar PV modules? And the answer here is B, China. Next question. Under which section of the Representation of Peoples Act 1951 does the Supreme Court's ruling state that a candidate's non-disclosure of certain personal matters does not amount to a corrupt practice? So basically, I am asking which section of the Representation of People Act talks about corrupt practices, and the answer would be D, section 123. Next, which author penned the timeless classic that brilliantly captures the extravaganza and complexities of the jazz age in The Great Gatsby? So I am asking you the author of the book The Great Gatsby, and the answer is C, F. Scott Fitzgerald. And this is from Hindu newspaper only. Okay. Next, the Supreme Court is hearing a dispute between union and states over power to levy tax, manufacture and produce alcohol. Which schedule of the Constitution demarcates the powers and functions of union and the states? So, I've asked you in which schedule the division of lists between union, state and confederate lists happens. Is it schedule 1, 6, 7 or 10? And the answer is obviously C. Schedule 7, under which the lists have been demarcated into union, state and confederate lists, on the basis of which the union and the state get the power to frame a law and to implement the law. Next question. Which of the following is the name of the largest naval infrastructure project underway at the naval base in Karwar, Karnataka? So, 4 option. What is the name of that? The largest naval infrastructure project undertaken by Indian Navy? Is it Project Seabird, Blue Ocean, Seafarer or Oceanic Seed? And the answer is A, Project Seabird. SkyMed has predicted a normal monsoon this year. What constitutes normal rainfall according to the IMD? We also discussed this also today, and the answer is C. Rainfall between 96% and 104% of the long period average, which is around 868 mm. Next, which company is the largest car maker in India? Is it Tata, Mahindra, Hyundai or Maruti? And the answer is D, Maruti Suzuki. And one question which you should answer in the chat box is that which company, which automaker is the largest automaker of the world? Okay, not the EV, in Toto, which is the largest car maker of the world. Next, who has recently been appointed as the Ireland's youngest ever Prime Minister? And the answer is obviously A, Simon Harris. Next, who known for proposing the existence of the God particle recently passed away at the age of 94, and the person who was also a Nobel laureate for this discovery only is Peter Higgs. Next, according to the WHO's global hepatitis report, where did India stand in terms of prevalence of viral hepatitis cases? Is it first, is it second, is it third or fourth? And we know it is at second place. So answer would be B. Next, the Lalit Kala Academy or the National Academy of Art is India's National Academy of Fine Arts. Who currently serves as the chairman of Lalit Kala Academy? So, is it Raghav Kaneria, Sudhir Patwardhan, is it V. Nagdas or M. F. Hussain? And the answer is C, V. Nagdas, who is currently the chairman of the Lalit Kala Academy. Which among the following is the first and the only tri-service command of the Indian Armed Forces? Is it IDS, is it ANC, is it SFC or is it DCA? And the answer here is B, Andaman and Nicobar Command, which is the first and the only tri-service command of the Indian Armed Forces. Next question. Which of the following country is home to the largest population of elephants in the world? Is it Botswana, India, China or Zimbabwe? And we now know that the answer is Botswana. And also know that India has the largest population of Asian elephants. Next, which organization has partnered with fact checkers in India to tackle online misinformation in anticipation of the upcoming general elections? And there are 4 options: Facebook, Twitter, Google, Microsoft. And the answer here would be Google, because the elections are coming up and there is a lot of misinformation on the internet. So Google has partnered with the fact checkers in India to dispel any kind of misinformation. Where is the new naval base INS Jatayu commissioned by the Indian Navy? Is it in Andaman Island, Miniko Island, Nicobar or Kavaratti? And the answer is Miniko Island in the Lakshadweep, where this INS Jatayu has been commissioned. Next question. Where is India's first indigenous prototype fast breeder reactor located? So it is the second stage of our nuclear reactor program, and where it has been located now. First one has been located at, is it at Kalpaka, Narora, Kundankulam or Rajasthan? And the answer here is A, Kalpakam, which is a nuclear plant in Tamil Nadu. Narora is a nuclear plant in UP. Kudankulam is again a nuclear plant in Tamil Nadu, and Rajasthan nuclear power plant or Rawalbhata nuclear power plant is in Kota in Rajasthan. So answer here for 19th is A. Now let's look at the last question. So from sports section, who recently achieved the top ranking in the ATP Tours ranking, becoming the oldest man to do so? So I'm simply asking you, the oldest number 1 ranked player in tennis history, is it Rohan Bopanna, is it Roger Federer, is it Novak Djokovic, or is it Andy Murray? And we know now the answer is Novak Djokovic, who has become the oldest player to be the ATP Tour ranking or rank 1 in men's ranking. So class, that's it for today. I hope to see you in the next session of Hindu News Analysis, where we are going to discuss the 20 GK question also. Thank you and have a very nice day.